Space Camp is one of those movies that I've seen bits and pieces of on TV, but I never actually saw the whole thing. So I can't really say how faithful this game is to the movie. But on its own, it's really nothing that great. So anyway, let's get into it. Space Camp for the MSX. Although the game came out back in 1986, the graphics actually look pretty good for the time. In particular, the title screen has some nice touches. I like the way the title comes down in segments and the shuttle flies all over the screen. Alright, maybe it's not that amazing, but at least they went to some trouble to make it look interesting. The shuttle in outer space look good, but if you can fuck up those things, then you shouldn't be making video games. And the floating space kid Max looks okay. But some of the interstellar shit looks really fucked up. You have these rocks floating in space. I'm guessing they're supposed to be asteroids, but they look more like kryptonite or radioactive kidney stones. And these things, I'm guessing they're supposed to be comets, but they look more like red dildos from the planet Wang. Oh, and let's not forget these objects here. I think they're supposed to be satellites, but they look more like floating garlic presses. Finally, there's these green things. And again, I think they're supposed to be asteroids. I've never heard of green asteroids before, but I guess the game designers just wanted to make them look different. Actually, you know what they remind me of? Dingleberries. I like to refer to them as the Dingleberries of Doom. Well, if nothing else, you can at least say they're different from the other space debris. And speaking of different, the controls might not be what you'd normally expect. Instead of racing through the cosmos, the shuttle just putters along. And you control its direction by firing its thrusters left, right, up, and down with a keypad. To brake the craft, you simply move in the opposite direction that you're going. The controls are pretty much the same for the extravehicular activity or EVA level with the kid. The only difference is that you can also open panels with the spacebar. The controls are a little bit tough to get used to at first, but I do like the fact that they actually tried to be a little bit more realistic when it came to space travel. Moving on to gameplay, it starts out very simply. The shuttle moves slowly through space, and you have to avoid all this crap flying around. Instead of Space Camp, they should have called this game Space Crap, because that's what you spend most of your time avoiding. And since your shuttle ain't packing guns, you can't just blast this shit out of your way. So you'll probably end up crashing into the space debris a couple of times before you get used to the controls. Along with watching where the hell you're going, you also have to keep an eye on these two indicators. There's oxygen and energy. You burn up energy with each shuttle thrust, and oxygen is depleted automatically. To replenish the air, you grab these white tanks, and to replenish energy, you grab the red ones. Run out of either resource, and you lose a life. Also, these red balls give you points. My only complaint with this level is that the power-up icons blend in too well with the backgrounds. At first I thought they were part of the space station, but nope, they're separate elements. If they had just made these power-ups a bit more distinguishable from the background, I wouldn't have any complaints. Well, actually that's not my only complaint. I'm not the biggest fan of these flying space dicks. Sometimes getting around them can be a real pain in the ass. No pun intended. Still, despite all the debris, I actually like this level. It's a fun little jaunt through space, and it's not too hard once you get used to the controls. Unfortunately, then came the EVA level, and the game plunged right into the crapper. You play as this space kid Max, and you have to float around the outside of the space station collecting items. There's lights, batteries, 1-ups, Gs, and diamonds. Why do you need diamonds in outer space for, anyway? Well, you do collect them in the Gs for points, so I guess they do have some purpose. Anyway, collecting all these items would be a cinch, except there is this fucking annoying robot who constantly tails you. It looks like a floating espresso machine, but it's actually the guardian of the space station. Now, if you move very slowly, it won't follow you. But if you go full blast, it will. Typically, you can avoid it if you just stay far enough away. Why does this station need a guardian anyway? There's nobody around! What, is it because it's the Cold War and they're afraid of the Russians? Yeah, I'm sure those commie bastards are gonna come up there and steal their fucking diamonds. You know what? If the Ruskies want the station and the diamonds, they can fucking have them! So getting back to the game, you float from screen to screen and collect items, and it gets very boring very fast. But what's even worse though are these bonus rooms. You can get more oxygen, energy, and points in these areas, but first you have to find a light. And you find these lights by opening up panels. But open up the wrong panel and you'll end up in one of these rooms without a light. And then you can get stuck because that cocksucking guardian shows up and pins you in there. So then you can't escape to the exit and you lose a life. Why don't you go fuck Wally, you mechanical cocksucker? What's even more annoying is that you constantly have to watch your fuel and oxygen. Now the game does give you several extra spare tanks of these resources, but you deplete them so quickly! If you thrust your suit anywhere, it just pisses the fuel away! Oh yes, and you can also float out into open space, which wastes even more of your resources! I suppose the next thing I'll have to do is go after Sandra Bullock and George Clooney! Finally, there's these weird droids that come out and occasionally come after you, but you can kill them by flying into them. But doing that takes away some energy. Gee, thanks a bunch, you robotic asshole! So when you collect enough items, you can move on to the last part. That's right, it's the Dingleberries of Doom! Actually, though, this section isn't too bad. You just have to fly around these rocks for 2 screens without hitting them. As long as you go slow, it's not too hard. Once you beat this section, you move on to the next level, which is a repeat of the first part. Only this time, it's a little bit harder. The game's music is meh. Here, listen. I think you'd be better off putting on the soundtrack to Gravity instead. Overall, I'd really like to give this game a big recommendation. Unfortunately, the EVA stage really soured me on the whole affair. Therefore, I can only give this game a marginal recommendation at best. So in conclusion, if you like space-based games, then play this one. If you don't, then skip it. You're really not missing all that much. This is Film and Stuff signing off. Thanks for watching. Why don't you go fuck Wally, you mechanical cocksucker?